Hey y'all, it's Charmise Idris here from Charmed Handmade, and in today's video I'll be covering the basics of label design, the best printers and paper to use, and then some printer settings for professional results. And if DIY isn't your thing, I'll also tell you where you can get some professionally printed labels as well. So stay tuned. First up, we're going to talk briefly about designing your labels. And I say briefly because I already have a couple videos on this, and this will actually depend on your brand identity and what appeals to you. But we're going to go through it just a little bit. As far as design software goes for your labels, there are a couple. I will always recommend Canva for design in business and really in life. It's just really a one-stop shop. So even if you want to start it from scratch or you want to find some labels and edit those, you can find those on Canva. And if you are starting from scratch and you have some type of graphic design background or you just are good at designing things, Adobe Illustrator and then Adobe Photoshop are great. So I had a background in Photoshop from my photography days. So that's how I do my labels, but mine are very minimalistic. You can also use Avery Design and Print, and I'm gonna actually talk about them a little bit more later, but they have like label templates that you can use. And I've used these for personal items, but I actually haven't used them in business, I don't think. But they do have some templates on there and they are free. And then lastly, I would recommend Etsy because you can buy some editable product labels. I'm gonna put one of the ones that I found recently up on the screen that I really do like. And in the description, they should tell you what software is recommended to edit them. So you can do it from Canva or some of the other ones they list. Just make sure you check to see what they recommend. I'm going to quickly go through some things that you need to have on your label. Now, I do have 2 full videos on what to include as far as FDA regulations go if you're in the US. One video is for soap and then one is for cosmetics, and I'll link those below. But just briefly, little lightning round, this is what you need on your label. You need your product identity, so what is it? Net weight or volume, your ingredient list, and I do list mine from the greatest amount of that ingredient to the least amount. Your business info. I would also put my directions for use. If there's any warnings that I need to add, I will add those as well. And then of course, I would like to add my logo and my branding elements. And when you're starting out, I definitely recommend staying on brand with your labels. So using the same fonts, the same color scheme, just the same vibe across all labels. So my labels are minimalistic and I use the same 2 fonts. That's going to be on all of my labels. So for example, if you go to the hair store and you look down the product aisle, you can see that all of those products are the same company because of their label, because of their color. So you can see Shea Moisture instantly. You know exactly what you want. You can see As I Am over there with their nice labels, their dark bottles. Like it all has the same brand identity is what I mean. Now we're going to talk about printing your labels, and let's start with printers. So I do know there are a couple different types of printers, but today we're only going to talk about the 2 that I know, which is laser and inkjet. So as far as print quality, inkjet is great for color-rich detailed designs and photos. Laser is best for sharp text and clean lines. And when we're talking about water and oil resistance, which of course these are labels, so you don't want them to smudge, and inkjet tends to smudge. And laser is naturally water and oil resistant. When it comes to printing speed, laser has got that as well. It's much faster, so it's great for bulk label printing. But inkjet is good for small batches. As far as cost considerations, everything's expensive these days, but the inkjet is a little cheaper up front. The ink does get a little expensive depending on the printer you get, so I would recommend checking that out before you get the inkjet. And then laser, it's expensive all around really, but the toner does last longer. Of course, we need to talk about durability when it comes to labels, and really laser has got that as well. And then paper compatibility, you just need to get laser labels or inkjet labels, which all of the places that I'm gonna talk about later, they have the choice of inkjet or laser. So that one's not as big of a deal. Since the title of this video does say high quality labels, I'm gonna have to recommend laser. It is expensive though, but you can get oil resistant, water resistant, professional looking labels. But I'm not gonna lie, I do still use inkjet for like my one-time use products, so bath bombs and shower steamers. I have both. I still have my OG inkjet brother. I think it's a brother. It's a brother. I do still use it, but at some point I do have to switch over to all laser labels because we want water resistant, oil resistant, of course. And then I will say, if you see on Amazon or wherever you're searching for a laser printer, if you see monochrome, that's grayscale. So just know that you're not going to be able to print colors. They're going to be cheaper. It's still expensive, but they're going to be cheaper. But just make sure you look for that word monochrome, or whatever version they may put on there. Just make sure you can print colors if you need to print colors. Next up, we're going to talk about what paper you're going to use for your labels. And I'm going to start with the best one, and it's weatherproof. Weatherproof labels are specifically designed to withstand exposure to water, humidity, heat, cold, sunlight, and rough handling. So basically whatever a steamy bathroom has to throw at it. And we're talking about bath products here, so, well, most of us are. So that's why I recommend it. Plus it's like a strong adhesive, it has durable material, and then it's often coated or like sealed with something that is anti-smudge, tear resistant. So that coupled with a laser printer, I mean, we're in the game at this point. But I do also want to mention gloss and matte labels. So quickly, the difference between glossy and matte. Matte, for if we're talking about clear labels, it's more frosted. If we're talking about white labels, it's just non-shiny, and then glossy is glossy. So I have used a lot of glossy labels. And they're also pretty good as well. They're typically like water resistant. You'll have to read, depending on what website you get it from, just read all of the drop downs, because sometimes they're actually weatherproof as well. If we're talking about clear labels, some of them are weatherproof. You just have to make sure you read the description on whatever website you're getting it from. And these would of course be cheaper than the weatherproof, well, should be cheaper than the weatherproof. So I would use these more for one-time products. So like my bath bombs and shower bombs again, or shower steamers, again, I would use just my clear glossy labels instead of getting weatherproof labels, because those don't need to go in the shower. But if I were to make a shower gel, then I would do laser on a weatherproof label, or I might seal it, but I don't know. I would test it, but I would start with laser and weatherproof. And then just another thing I want to add, depending on what website you're on, so what company you're using, and I will talk about companies in just a second, but just make sure you look at what type of labels they have. So it might not be called weatherproof, but it is weatherproof. So like Avery has something called durable film, and I absolutely love that one for my lip balms because it felt good, and it was also water resistant, oil resistant, tear resistant, and some other smudge or fade resistant. So that was one of my favorite ones to use for that, for things that would be in your hand constantly, like lip balm. So just check to see what those websites have. Now let's talk about where you should buy your label papers. Now, I'm only going to state the 3 companies that I have used for my actual products that I've shipped to my customers. So those are the only 3 I'm going to talk about. Now, there are a lot out there, but let's start with Avery. That's my OG. That's the one I started with. Great quality labels. At the time of me researching this, it was $4.95 flat rate shipping for labels, and then free over $50. So we always love free shipping. So that, and then they also have great design software. I would say that they're the best design software out of all of the ones I'm going to name today. And then what else about them? Oh, they also have their labels in a lot of places. So you can buy Avery labels on avery.com, of course, but Amazon, Staples, Office Depot, Walmart. So you can find them a lot more places. I don't use Avery anymore because I did find some cheaper alternatives that I actually like better. So let's get into those. First is online labels. Online labels is the one that I use the most out of any of these. I'll get almost all of my labels from online labels, and they're good quality, well, great quality, I would say, good pricing, low cost shipping, and the shipping is actually very fast. Now, I don't know if that's going to be fast for everybody because I don't know where they are in the US, but they ship to me very fast, and typically it's only like $4 and some change is the shipping. Now, I don't know if that's their flat rate, but that's how much it costs me. And then they also send me $10 off coupons a lot. So we love that, of course. So Love online labels. Next up, we're going to talk about sheet labels. They also have good quality, and then they have shipping for free over $55, and I do currently still use them as well. All three companies do offer free samples. You might have to find it on some of their sites to where they offer the free samples, but I also think all three offer custom size labels as well. All right, so we have already talked about designing your labels, what printer to use, what paper to use. We're going to talk about printer settings in a minute, I promise. But first, we need to talk about formatting your labels before you print them. So I do this in two different ways. So if you want to buy full label sheets, so 8.5 by 11, it is just sticky on the back. It is just the label paper and it's sticky on the back. There's no like pre-cut things. I would recommend using like Google Docs or Word to arrange them on the sheet and then saving that as a PDF. So you may have to like change the page orientation just to fit as many labels as possible. And then you can later cut that out with a paper trimmer. And I'll link the one that I use in the description below. And I did do this for a while. This was a longer process. I did have to cut everything out, but it was cheaper for what I was doing at the time. And I still do this for certain products. It is just not ones that I actually ship to my customers anymore. It's just for personal things, just to have my own label on them. Now, instead of doing the full sheets, which did save some money, but it did waste a lot of time, I do the pre-cut or die cut labels. I'm not quite sure which one is called or if it's both, but I do like the pre-cut labels so that I could just peel it off the sheet and stick it on. When it comes to designing these, I will use whatever design software is on the site that I bought the label from. So if I bought the label from Avery, I'm going to use their design and print. If I bought my labels from Online Labels, I'm going to use Maestro Label Designer, and then sheet labels, I think theirs is also called Design and Print. And I highly recommend, no, this is not a recommendation, you have to do this. You have to save them as a PDF, not a Word document, as a PDF. And I say this because a lot of y'all know that I started my business February 15th, 2019. On that day, the launch of my business was at a pop-up shop. So the night before, the procrastinator that I was, I tried to print out all my labels for those products the night before. I did not save them as a PDF. And these were my pre-cut, die cut labels. I didn't save it as a PDF. I saved it as a Word document, I think. And when I went to print it, they were crooked as hell. Like they were not aligned. Like half of my label was off of the label. And that stressed me out so bad because like I said, I procrastinated. I didn't have money. I was just launching this business. I ran out of ink too. So a lot of things didn't have labels, so I didn't get to take them. Save it as a PDF. Yeah, so that you don't do what I did, because boy, that was stressful. Now let's talk printer settings. So like I said earlier, I do save all of my printer sheets as PDFs. That's just the best way to print them. So I do print all of my PDFs on Adobe Acrobat. Now I don't know if that part matters, but that's what I use. So I just wanted to include that. If we are talking about printing on an inkjet printer, I changed the media to photo paper. I don't have a label option on mine. So if I did, then I would put label, but I have photo paper and that is the best quality that I have found. It is slow. Don't get me wrong. It will take a while on my printer to print out the photo paper, but they look great. For laser, I changed the settings to labels, and that is the best quality that I have found for my laser. And for both inkjet and laser, I do click the actual size, and then my orientation is always on auto. Okay, so you may be watching this video and you've already tried these things and you're like, girl, tell me where to print them because I'm not doing this anymore. I completely understand. All three of them actually do professional printing. Now, Avery is the one that I did use in my business at one point when I was just like, I don't want to print anything. It was before I got a laser printer, and that inkjet just was not doing it. I tried all the things they said to seal. The inkjet label was not working. It was terrible and it was time consuming. I ended up ordering a lot of my labels, I think all of them at one point, besides soap labels, came from Avery, and they have great quality. So I'm just gonna put some of the labels that I used up on the screen so that you can see. Now, I stopped doing that because now I have a laser printer and I don't need to outsource for labels anymore because it did start getting a little expensive. Plus, I just don't like waiting. I don't like waiting for my labels, so that's why I ended up breaking down and getting the laser printer. But in the beginning, I could not, so I did do the Avery. Lastly, I just want to give you some random tips that I have learned throughout my years of printing labels by myself. So first, I know it's self-explanatory, but make sure you let your labels dry before you start touching them. So obviously it can get smeared, your fingers will get purple, just let them fully dry. I know sometimes with that inkjet, it will take a while and you're like, girl, I need to put these labels on, I need to ship these out. Just let it dry. Just let it dry for a while. Even with the photo quality printing, let it dry for a while. The next thing I recommend, and I did this in a different video, but test your labels on regular printer paper first before you start buying labels. So you want to test the size. You can cut it out. You can test the size of your label before you start buying a bunch of pre-cut label paper, because then it might not fit. And then when you do get the size and everything that you want, test it on one sheet first to make sure your alignment is good, because you don't want to print out 20 and your labels are over here when they're supposed to be over here. So just test. Now this one's not so much of a tip, it's just me acknowledging something that I've seen a lot. So you can seal your labels. I've seen people seal it with like a waterproof spray. I don't recommend that one, but I have seen a lot of people do laminate paper or lamination paper, however you say it. I haven't done that though, so I can't recommend it, but I've seen a lot of people recommend it. So not quite sure. Me and my laser and my weatherproof, we're good. Tip number 4, or really number 3, I don't know which one we're at, but if you're doing full sheets and you need to cut it out, don't use scissors. Use a paper trimmer and line it up with the top and everything so that it's straight. So a scissor can be straight, but it's still gonna be crooked if it's not like a 90-degree angle and all that. So just use a paper trimmer. Like I said, I did put the link in the description below for you, so use that. All right, if you have a dark container or a dark product, I don't recommend having like a clear label with black writing on it. You wanna make sure that your customer can read what's in the product or what the product is. So you might want to go for a white label or like some other color label, but maybe not a clear label with black if you can't read it. Next, I recommend wiping your bottles and jars down with like 91 or 99% isopropyl alcohol before putting on your labels. They should be clean anyway, but still, like once you put like the oil in there, there might be some oil residue on there, or it might just be a little dirt on the outside. So just make sure you wipe those down before you put your labels on. Next up, if you have an issue putting labels on straight, I recommend getting the or a label application tool from like Amazon or Etsy, just so that they're straight, especially if you're going to be selling in stores. You don't want it looking like that. So you can get that. And then a lot of bottles and jars that I have, I don't know in the world, but a lot of the ones I have a seam down the side of it, and that's how I line up my label to be straight, because it's a straight line down. And then lastly, I just want to show you how I store my labels. So I have this little situation hanging from a door, and I just have pockets for each product, and then I have folders for each scent of that product. Or you can put them in a binder as well. I've seen that, and that looks very successful. I just like to have mine just hanging so I can just snatch it and put it on. So you can do that as well. All right, y'all, thank you so much for tuning into this video. I do want to shout out my people over on Patreon, but first I want to say, if you want to support this channel, I do have a support tier over on Patreon. I think it's $1 a month. So like $12 a year to help support this channel so that I can keep creating recipes and videos and things like that. But I want to shout out my businesses over on Patreon who support this channel. So here they are. Make sure you check out their links in the description below. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this video. If you got something to say, please drop a comment. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like it here, please consider subscribing. All right, y'all. Bye.